Government urged to be responsible in budget undertakings. Fire in Port Moresby destroys residential apartments. And Toya Whistle backs her sister competing in the PNG Games.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
Good evening and welcome. This is Tuesday's news. The government must be responsible in its approach towards the 2015 national budget. National Research Institute Director Dr. Thomas Webster said this when highlighting that the anticipated recovery of the global economy has not happened. As a result, commodity prices have been affected. This, he said, will affect the balance of the government's revenue and expenditure plan.
In an interview with EMTV this morning, Director of the National Research Institute, Dr. Thomas Webster, explained that the national budget is the government's revenue and expenditure plan for the year. It needs to be adjusted throughout the year. A revisit of this year's massive 15 billion kina budget, Dr. Webster highlighted that when the government presented the 2014 budget, it anticipated a recovery of the global economy. This expected recovery hasn't happened.
That has not happened. It's struggling. And as a result, our commodity prices are not at the expected levels. For instance, gold was projected at 1,300 US dollars per ounce. It's now gone down to below that.
What concerns Dr. Webster is that in its mid-year report, the government has indicated a revenue deficit of over 300 million kina. Dr. Webster suspects that the total revenue deficit by the end of this year will be around 400 million kina if there are no improvements from revenue-generating sources like state-owned entities and the sale of assets.
So what I'm regularly saying is we may have shortfalls in the revenues, and that revenue shortfall may increase.
Dr. Webster is also concerned that the government is adamant it will still maintain the current level of expenditure.
Now that's a very difficult call. So what they mean is that they will maintain the same level of expenditure, but they will now try to borrow more in order to meet that shortfall. So borrowing is going to increase.
Dr. Webster said there is therefore more pressure on the budget than expected. He hopes that the government will be more responsible in the next budget, saying that if the government keeps borrowing, it will put the country at risk. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
On a related note, the PNG Defence Force has submitted its budget proposal to the government for inclusion in the 2015 national budget. Last year, the force was given 240 million kina, but has now submitted a proposal of up to 400 million kina. PNG Defence Force Secretary John Potty, in an interview, said it is an expensive exercise to run an organisation such as the PNG Defence Force.
Papua New Guinea Defence Force has had its ups and downs in the past. It is one government institution that has gone through reforms, including downsizing of manpower, then rebuilding again. All this aggressive turnaround is captured in the Defence Force White Paper policy. PNGDF Secretary John Potty says more funding is needed to fully carry out the objectives in the policy. The Defence Force White Paper policy simply calls for enhanced improvements in the areas of training, welfare and overall improvement in the PNG Defence Force and national security. It also defines a clear roadmap on how both the department and the PNG Defence Force can work together, knowing their roles and responsibilities. The military was only allocated well over 250 million kina in this year's budget to cater for the land, air and sea element. Secretary Potty says like in any other organization, 70% from the recurrent budget is spent on administrative costs. Therefore, the Army hopes its submission between 300 to 400 million kina will be considered in the 2015 national budget to fully implement its white paper policy. Bridget Komateb, National EMTV News.
A special parliamentary committee on public sector reform and service delivery will start zoning in on government departments and state agencies next year in an effort to improve efficiency. The six-member committee, chaired by Goroka MP Bire Kimisopa, has presented a report on its first phase of reviews. It has found that the public service should be held more accountable in its delivery of services to the people. It also wants to start this wave of public sector reform by giving more clout to parliamentary committees.
Featured in our budget. So
The member for Goroka and chairman of the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reform and Service Delivery is asking some hard questions.
why aren't we delivering services down to our people? And most recently, why are mothers delivering baby on the sidewalk when they should be in a maternity walk? Why aren't our people getting access to legal services? Why aren't cases on remand increasing right throughout the country, not having their day in court? Why are the civil courts being overburdened by election petitions that's running almost the entire length of Parliament, that judges and the National Registry are all bogged down trying to dispense with election petitions?
There are questions about the performance of public servants and just how much of basic government service is being delivered to the people and at what cost.
Now, Neville, if you were to look at the budget as it is in 2015, the actual appropriation for public service is roughly about 7 billion. Now, internal revenue should be around, including grants, perhaps probably about 10 billion. But almost 60 or 70% of the entire revenue is consumed by the public service.
He's realistic about what needs to be done and is very much aware of his committee's limitations. Speaking on MTV's Talk Picsa, Chairman Kimi Sopa says that the answers to our public service problems are not that difficult. It just needs hard decisions to be made. Following a tour of similar governments in the region, there are some hard conclusions the committee has come up with. The first and foremost is that our public service is just too big, and there's just too much duplication of tasks and responsibilities. Kimi Sopa believes the answer lies in giving teeth and more subpoena powers to parliamentary committees.
So we think all powers emanate from Parliament, so we've got to start with Parliament. And Parliament being Parliament, we've got to do our comparative analysis across the region. Are the parliaments in Australia enjoying the same kind of privileges that the Parliament in PNG has? The Parliament in other jurisdictions enjoying the same kind of privileges, are enjoying the same kind of sanction and powers that they have, that we have in this country? I think the big question now is that we don't. Parliament, under our present constitution, there are certain powers that parliamentary committees, if you look at parliamentary committees in Parliament, they're not vested with the kind of powers, and they're not sanctioned with the authority to call people up by way of subpoena or by way of a formal request. Now, Parliament as it is, because we have the separation of functions, you got Parliament, the executive, and the judiciary. So more or less, we've shifted the responsibility of Parliament to the courts.
He wants parliamentary committees to be able to hold public servants accountable and be able to refer them for prosecution should the need arise.
What we're saying is contempt for Parliament insofar as the parliamentary committees are concerned. Okay. They can call someone up. Now, he's under oath. Mm-hmm. If he's, for instance, if he's Secretary for Department of Works. Right. Now, if the prevailing construction rate for 1 kilometer of Seal Road is roughly about 1.5 million kina, why is it that it's now 10 million kina? And if Parliament is of the view, and it has credible information that through the tendering process, that the standards have not been applied, and for some reason a contract has been awarded, now the standards are asking for 1.5 million kina per kilometer, all of a sudden it's been jacked up to about 10 million kina. So we've got to ask this critical question. So was the procurement process transparent? And if there's any instances of corruption, then the Works Parliamentary Committee ought to refer the Secretary for prosecution, make that recommendation, and that is carried. Or alternatively, if the Secretary for Work stands up in a special parliamentary committee, he's been subpoenaed to give evidence, and he gives misleading evidence, then he ought to be jailed.
The committee has completed its fact-finding tours and will, as of early next year, start meeting with individual departments and state agencies. Neville Choi, National EMTV News.
The Papua New Guinea Defence Force CASA aircraft will undergo servicing in Indonesia. The contract was signed yesterday to have this vital fleet upgraded. AD Trade Limited, a Belgian company, has been tasked with the job.
The Papua New Guinea Defence Force CASA aircraft could be back in the air within 120 days after being grounded for years. This is the expected time frame given by the contractor AD Trade Limited. A sum of 4.2 million kina was presented to the contractor today to begin work on the aircraft. The aircraft will do a ferry flight to Indonesia on the 24th of this month to undergo the major overhaul. The Air Transport Wing is an important element of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force. Earlier this year, it celebrated its 39th anniversary, but it has deteriorated over these years, creating a 20-year gap period that must be narrowed. The rebuilding of the ATW is just one of many rebuilding programs undertaken by the Papua New Guinea Defence Force. Secretary of PNGDF John Porty expects the outcome will set the pace for other programs to follow. All programs to be undertaken will strictly be guided by the Papua New Guinea Defence Force White Paper. Bilateral assistance has helped keep the air transport wing alive. Porty is hopeful the government will support PNGDF to fully rebuild its capacity. Mickey Cavera, National MTV News.
Tonight on MTV News Special Report, we'll look at recent developments in Yanguru Salsia district in the East Sepik province. For 2 decades, access to basic government services like health and education were non-existent. Most district roads and bridges were left to deteriorate, and little attention was given to maintaining facilities at the government station. But 20 years of neglect may be a thing of the past after current MP Richard Maru and his teams of district officers deliver strategies to make Yanguru Salsia a model district in East Sepik. Our reporter Thekla Gunga has tonight's MTV News Special Report.
Yanguru Salsia district is a 2-hour drive from the provincial capital, Wewak. It is home to over 65,000 people and shares borders with 5 other electorates. The district has 4 LLGs, but its vast landmass makes it one of the biggest electorate in the province. Access to clean and safe drinking water has always been a concern for the people, but this is now a thing of the past. In its first phase of providing clean and safe drinking water, a partnership agreement was signed between the district and Oxfam International.
I would like to see safe water to all my schools at Sembo, Kusambu, Munji. All these schools should have safe water.
This agreement will see over 4,000 people in 7 different villages access clean and safe drinking water without walking for long distances to fetch water from wells. This partnership makes Yanguru Salsia the first district in PNG to partner an NGO at district level.
We're extremely thankful for your generosity, for your kindness, and for the faith that you are giving Oxfam to take forward this implementation job to deliver clean water and sanitation across the district of Yanguru Salsia.
A sum of 250,000 kina was released from the district's DSIP funds to fund this project. Survey will soon commence and the project is due for completion in December. If the project becomes successful, it will be extended to other villages. Following his earlier pledge, Mr. Maru fulfilled his commitments at Munji village by presenting 100,000 kina to upgrade the Munji aid post so it can serve people of neighboring electorates.
Lo mipla lo distance, lo here, lo go down, lo kubalia, and long way through. It's have taking time, lo mipla lo walk about. Especially time me come long, emergency time, all bell mama.
This aid post was built in 1968 and operated for some time, but because of lack of staff, it was closed for almost 2 decades.
Lifting the education standards in Nyanguru Sausia is another area the MP has invested in. His recent visit saw the funding of another 4 4-in-1 classrooms for Munji, Sinengu and Kusambuk Primary and Marambanja Elementary Schools with 20,000 kina each. In Sausia, Kubalia High School became the first school in Momase region to register to e-library, an online digital program that gives students and teachers access to electronic encyclopedia through the use of tablets. This is a pilot project, and at the presentation of these tablets, Mr. Maru challenged the students and teachers to utilize the resource.
So I expect Mr. Headmaster and Board Chairman to see the academic performance of Kubalia must keep going up. That's my challenge.
But the ultimate goal of MP Maru and his team is to link all villages in Nyanguru, Winge and Kubalia by road before the year ends. Almost 20 million kina was given to the Department of Works in Wiwek to build roads and bridges in the district. Currently, 6 different district roads are being constructed simultaneously. However, road projects to Marambanja have not commenced because of lack of machines. Meanwhile, an additional 150,000 kina was given to Cocoa Board in Wiwek for 6 million cocoa seedlings to be distributed to the districts, 1,000 of which will be given to Winge community.
We recognize also that provinces like Isipik and Wesipik have been missing out a lot on derivation grants because their cocoa has been going through Medeng and Lay, making it look like it's Medeng cocoa or Morobe cocoa. That nonsense needs to stop. We need to send cocoa straight to export markets.
This is an attempt to increase the cocoa production in Nyanguru Sausia and at the same time plant a new breed of cocoa that will not be affected by the cocoa pod borer disease. With the different economic investments and developments happening in the district, Nyanguru is slowly changing. But MP Maru says it still has a long way to go. Teklagunga, National EMTV News.
A residential apartment gutted by fire, maintenance work forces PNG Power to carry out load shedding, and Morobe Governor wants the government to address PNG's ailing fire service. I'll bring you those stories coming up after the break. Welcome back to the news. A residential apartment in Port Moresby's 6 Mile was burnt down and possessions completely destroyed as fire gutted the property. Residents there could not control the blaze as it sparked out of hand. The public is calling on the fire service to act promptly and respond to such incidents.
Shown in this amateur video caught by a resident within the apartment, the fire ignited after sparking off from an electrical fault early this morning. It didn't take long for the fire to extend to other neighboring residences as it burned its way through. Some residents risked their life by trying to save their properties but could not make it in time as the fire was spreading. Bystanders jumped in to help the residents there while others stood in amazement and used their mobile phones to capture the fire.
Send him to blouse here, send him to blouse here. To blouse down finish.
An eyewitness said efforts to put out the fire using a hose or buckets of water was denied by the huge flames engulfed on the building. Witnesses said the Boroko Fire Service was informed of the fire but arrived an hour later. Again, this fire has prompted the public to question the roles of the fire service and its ability in responding to such incidents. Families living there have lost properties valued at over 50,000 kina. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
Current maintenance work carried out by PNG Power engineers on a generator at Moitaka and 2 others at Kanudi have forced the company to carry out load shedding in Port Moresby. Engineers are also carrying out maintenance work at the Rona 4 hydropower station. As a result, there is a shortfall of 42 megawatts and PNG Power can only supply 65.5 megawatts to its customers. Load shedding is currently ongoing and will continue every evening until the generators in the power stations are fully restored. The current drought at NCD is also affecting water levels at the Sirinumu Dam and subsequently affecting power generation. PNG Power urges customers with standby generators to use them during the load shedding times. 13 fires in a span of 12 months have prompted the Morobe governor to call on the national government for immediate response to address fire as a serious problem. Kelly Naru has again issued a plea for assistance to upgrade PNG's ailing fire service with new equipment, some of which hasn't been replaced for many years. Continuous fire in various parts of the country may have an impact on investors' confidence in doing business in the country.
Lei has become synonymous with fire. The Morobe Governor Kelly Naru in this interview today says with Lei becoming PNG's economic hub, a proper emergency service is needed.
It is a case of the political will being there, the commitment on funding being there, and then you have the problem with management.
While all eyes are on the government to fix this age-old issue, the public still remained skeptical about the emergency services in the country. Since December last year, Lei has encountered 13 fire incidents. Businesses have lost assets worth over several millions. The recent one was about a week ago. A teenage boy was killed during the inferno.
The need for urgent attention and improvement in terms of our firefighting services and the capacity to address this firefighting issue is now urgent like never before.
Another fire in Mount Again 2 weeks ago burned down 7 shops. This has again brought the ability of the PNG fire service into question. Public confidence in the PNG's emergency services has dipped in recent years. Questions on the state of PNG's fire service were put to the Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, who was in Lei last week.
We are now talking to the line department that is responsible for fire services to try and upgrade all the facilities. Like everything else, it has collapsed.
While the government promised to rebuild this ailing public service in towns and cities all over the country, many say it may not happen too soon. Those who are working with the emergency services say they are ill-equipped. Many of the equipment, such as fire trucks, haven't been replaced for more than 20 years. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Lei.
People from Lapegu in the Eastern Highlands province will own hectares of export value trees valuing close to $1 million kina. Locals are forming an incorporated landowner group to manage trees that they have on their land. The National Forest Authority is facilitating the process taken for ownership of the trees and award an ILG certificate.
These trees in Lapegu were planted by locals working for the National Forestry Authority over 50 years ago. Lapegu is one of the oldest forestry stations in the country. Trees were taken from Morobe's Bulolo and planted in its grasslands. But with the commercialization of forest products, the people want to sell their trees. Timothy Palpali, an inventory and mapping officer from the National Forestry Authority, will be working with the landowner groups. Palpali explains that the people must manage their trees properly. They mustn't start fires when the trees have grown.
Something there was part stakeholder. So when I can benefit come all to all
The move to develop forestry comes after an inventory was done across the Eastern Highlands by officers like Timothy Palpali. It revealed 300,000 cubic meters of trees. These many trees have the potential to generate profits in the hundreds of millions of kina in just royalty alone.
At an annual cut, sustainable cut, that we can manage, that and at the same time support the industry.
The change of government has helped with the redevelopment of forestry in the Eastern Highlands.
Need to be incorporated and have an ILG in place so that they can negotiate for other assistance they want. We also found out that when there was no ILG, there were other people who are coming in to disturb landowners who claim to be landowners, but they're not landowners.
Eastern Highlands Governor Julie Soso has showed support for the project by funding the certification of the incorporated landowner groups. Bethany Harriman, National EMTV News.
Increase in population in Enga province has seen long queuing of hours at the Bank of South Pacific branch in Wabek town. Frustrated public servants are now calling on the bank's management to address the problem. A bystander who was part of the queue captured the public's concern and shares this video.
Enga province is going through an influx of people engaging in different fields of employment. This has also seen establishments of new schools, teachers and nursing colleges, and development of mining industry, among others. All these, plus a constant increasing population of Enga, has put extreme pressure on the people spending endless hours to access banking services in recent weeks. 3 to 4 hours of queuing at the local BSP branch in Wabek town is becoming an everyday thing. Teacher Don Pakilau says BSP needs to seriously look into this matter and improve its services.
Not equivalent to the ATM. We need more ATMs to be located in different areas, because the demand for the ATM from the public is too much.
Another public servant, Stephen Angalu, says BSP is the only bank in Wabek and people have no choice but to stand in line to access banking services every day.
BSP need to open 2 or 3 more ATMs from the 5 that is already existing.
BSP in Wabek were contacted but could not comment on the matter. Jack Lapave Jr., National EMTV News.
And now we take a look at the finance news. The kina closed 10 points lower at $0.395 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, the kina was buying $0.3885 $0.4419 Australian dollars, $0.3028 euro, and 43.72 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, cocoa, and copper all closed lower. Palm oil and copper closed higher, while crude oil closed lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 24 points lower, the ASX closed at 13 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 13 points higher as well. We'll bring you more local news coming up after the break, and the cheers and tears at the Melbourne Cup. Stay with us for the details. Good to have you back with the news. Kwikila Secondary School in the Rigo district of Central Province will receive 2 million kina to upgrade its facilities. While the funds will go primarily to upgrading school infrastructure, this is the first time the Central Provincial Government has invested highly in education. The last 5 weeks has seen some of the province's high schools and secondary schools receive close to 5 million kina in funds.
Kwikila Secondary School in the Central Province was once a top high school in the country. But over the years, the school has deteriorated to the point of being condemned by a health inspection in 2011. The school has faced countless problems to date, mismanagement of funds to develop the school, which is now visible with its degrading infrastructure. However, the school will be given another chance, with Central Governor Kila Hauda today pledging 2 million kina to revive this once prestigious school. The governor said he wants the Central Province to excel, and education is the turning point.
Now it's my responsibility. As a governor, I must invest in education so that we can come and enjoy the glory of the past days. Let us give credit to all our past leaders of Central Province.
He said the provincial government has given half of the 2 million kina to Atlas Steel to build the new buildings of the school. This is because it does not want the funds to be misused by the school.
In that way, we know our money has already been invested in a company.
Central Province Administrator Gay Raga, who is a former student of Kwikila, said the provincial government is embarking on bigger education projects for the province. While this is the first time in the history of the province to have its government prioritize education, another primary school in the Rigo district received 200,000 kina. Daumagini Primary School will now be able to build 2 new classrooms and a teacher's house after years of government ignorance. Over the past 5 weeks, the central provincial government has invested highly in upgrading many of its high schools and secondary schools in the province, in which over 5 million kina has been invested. Stanley Ove Jr., National EMTV News.
The National Airports Corporation, under its Civil Aviation Development Investment Program, signed 4 contracts today. This marks a significant milestone for the NAC. The projects include aircraft pavement strengthening and the manufacture and supply of airport rescue and firefighting vehicles for selected airports.
With its goal to support economic growth and safety, National Airport Corporation, in partnership with the Asian Development Bank, PNG government and other stakeholders, awarded 4 contractors to deliver their services.
This occasion showcases a real progress in the Civil Aviation Development Program and a growing partnership between ADB and the PNG governments.
The contractors are Global Construction, China Harbour Construction, Shorncliffe and Oshkosh. The contracts were signed for aircraft pavement strengthening and upgrading of Vanimo, Girua, in Popondetta and Chimbu airports. It is also about the manufacturing and supplying of 9 airport rescue and fire trucks to Nadzab, Hagen, Tokua, Wewak, Medang and Goroka airports.
No prioritization from it. It's our implementation. We have a project pipeline, so we deliver as and when they do. But in this case, we speeded up the procurement process because you see, the government and the people deserve for us to speed up implementation of our projects rather than going through those protracted long time of procurement.
The combined value of the 4 contracts is 132 million kina. Apart from the construction and the projects, ongoing maintenance work is also supported, which involves small urgent pavement works that are required to keep the airports operational until funding is available. All these projects are under the 9-year Civil Aviation and Development Investment Program from 2010 to 2017. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
Turning overseas now to the race that stops the nation. The Melbourne Cup was once Australia's great race, but now belongs to the world. German stallion Protectionist running away in brilliant fashion from England's Red Kudu, who finished second for a 3rd time. Amid the celebrations, though, there was also despair with favourite Admire Rakti dying in the stall after the race.
No runners, but you can't keep last year's winner Gay Waterhouse out of the Cup. And what would this day be without a rousing rendition of the national anthem? The mounting yard catwalk done and dusted, it was down to business. Jockeys not in the race took up their position.
They're set. Racing. The cup field on its way. Janurban Unchained My Heart with the first couple of bounds on the inside.
The pace was breakneck, with My Ambivalent and Admire Ratke leading the field.
Because My Ambivalent wants to run, and she leads by about 3 lengths. Admire Ratke is holding down second, about 1.5 lengths to Royal Diamond third.
Deep into the race, the front runners continued their duel.
At the 1,200 metres, and the leader is still My Ambivalent by 2, Admire Rakti, and Brambles had gone up into 3rd placing, followed by Royal Diamond, Red Cadeau.
It was on the turn that Admire Ratke's race fell in a hole, as did My Ambivalent, as the contenders mounted their challenge.
Admire Rakti's well back, Opinion has pulled out, Mutual Regard is threading through, and so too Protectionist. Red Canoe hits the front, Sign Off coming after him with 300 metres to go, Willing Foe starting to run on down the outside, and Protectionist is bursting through. Protectionist raced to Red Canoe, who shot the Barman and then Sign Off, but Protectionist raced away at the 100 metre mark. It's Germany's Melbourne Cup, Protectionist by 3 lengths to Red Canoe, and Protectionist bolted in the cup by 3. Red Canoe second again, who shot the Barman third.
English jockey Ryan Moore was as laid back after the race as he was during it.
His record's very good, and I'm very pleased with him.
And so were the connections. The $6.2 million race was there, while for some it was a little bit more than that.
I am the owner breeder and I am the shareholder. It's the first time that I come here and I win. Thank you. I have to go to my horse.
The walk back home was more subdued. Ryan Moore is no Glen boss when it comes to working a crowd.
No greater ride than coming back to scale here after winning a Melbourne Cup.
Moore's acceptance speech was gold for its brevity.
Just like to thank everybody and hope you enjoyed your day. Take care.
Protectionist had worked up an appetite while the winners bathed in his glory. By then, the news had filtered through. Cup favourite Admire Ratke had died in the stall.
Just the process going back to the stalls to get hosed down and go to the swab box, the horse passed away.
The sheer joy of Cup Day had lost some of its lustre.
And that's a take on our news segment tonight, but do stay tuned. We've got Trukai Sports coming up after the break. Toya Whistle's inspiring words for athletes, and Team East Sipic cuts back on its participation at the PNG Games. I'll be back with the details.
Trukai Sports.
BSP PNG Games 2014. 11 days to go. Support your province.
The Morobe Provincial Government today handed over the 2014 PNG Games flag and spear to the organising committee to host the Games in Lae. Governor Kelly Naru presented them to Chairman of Organising Committee, Sir Boyamo Sully, in front of stakeholders at the Sir Ignatius Kilagi Stadium. The flag and spear were given to Morobe Province during the 5th PNG Games in Kokopo, East New Britain in 2012. The organising committee will be handing them over to the next host province at the end of the 2014 PNG Games. Kelly Naru says Morobe is ready to host the biggest sporting event in PNG. Moving on, PNG Sprint Queen Toya Whistle has been in the country for almost a month and has been training at the High Performance Training Centre, waiting for her Australian visa to be granted. Next week, Toya will be in Lae to join other Games ambassadors for the 6th BSP PNG Games. But besides her ambassador role, she will also be keeping a close eye on younger sister Christine, who will make her debut on the track for Team Jiwaka.
The 2014 6th BSP PNG Games is expected to be bigger and better, with both elite athletes and upcoming talents. And Toya Whistle, the Games ambassador, is serious about upcoming athletes who will be representing their province in various sports. Toya has been in the country for almost a month to farewell her late father Whistle, who passed away from an illness.
It's hard to lose your dad, so I'm going through a lot with so many things, but I'm strong and still look, life goes on, so I move forward with my life.
The 26-year-old track sensation described her father as a personal sports mentor to her and her siblings, including PNG men's 100 and 200 meter specialist Kupun Whistle. Toya first made the final in the National Athletics Championships in 2004 in Lae, where she recalls running barefoot on the Sir Ignatius Kilagi Stadium synthetic track.
I came to Lae to run the national and I ran barefoot, and they can see that I can run and my potential was there, so it's God's plan.
This time around, Toya will be flagging up younger sister Christine Whistle, who will be representing Team Jiwaka in the 100 meters, 200 meters and 4x100 meters relay.
She's been interesting and she's running. All my family is coming to PNG Games in Lae. They're all in sports.
All eyes will be on Christine Whistle. Another Whistle is expected to make an appearance representing Team Jiwaka at the PNG Games, just like Toya. Rafaela Kaure, National EMTV Sports.
Team East Sipic will be sending 5 sporting codes, less than the initial 16 it had planned for the PNG Games. This was highlighted by General Manager Clarence Hukahu following a 20,000 kina cheque presentation from Yanguru Sansia MP Richard Maru in Wewak. East Sipic will only be sending 11 codes instead of 16 out of the 28 sporting codes taking part.
Since the beginning of the team's preparations towards the PNG Games, the team has received very little financial support from business houses and electorate members in the province.
In fact, we
nominated 16 codes earlier in the year, but situations turned out in such a way that we had to drop the other 4. Most of them failed to comply with instructions.
It was also revealed that most business houses were reluctant to support the team because of the players' negative attitudes towards training. But this team is determined to change that mindset.
Team CP is preparing well. All the 11 codes are hard at training.
The money presented, 10,000 kina, will go to pay levy fees for the kickboxing team and 500,000 kina each to volleyball and soccer teams. The money is from MP Maru's discretion funds, and the team is focusing on kickboxers to bring home gold. Less than 200 athletes will make up Team East Sepik at the Leh Games. The team will travel to Medang by air, then to Leh by road. Tekla Gunga, National, EMTV Sports.
To Rugby League, Gary Lowe has made known his intention to join forces with 3 others bound for England under the leadership of Stanley Genne. Despite his commitments with SPPNG Hunters, the 21-year-old has affirmed on the Genne's invitation to travel to England and continue his rugby league career at a different level and competition.
The level of competition Gary Lowe will be competing in England is lower than the Intra-Super Cup and NRL, but the young vibrant gun is up for it and has already made commitment.
I can say that I'm innocent. They get taught to stand. Oh yeah, straightforward to the management and coaches. The players are innocent.
Gary Lowe comes from a broken home where he is sometimes looked up to as a breadwinner in the family. Lowe resorted to rugby league in his early high school days in Agen Park Secondary School with the idea to make enough money to look after his mother and siblings.
Father left us and go marry second, third wife and go, and I'm the one who look after my small brother, sister and my mom. So like when I'm grown up to that, I should have no way to get money, so the best time is to play rugby and get some money to pay my school fee, my own school fee.
The SPPNG Hunters wing sensation was a thriller both on and off the field in the Hunters' inaugural season of the Intra-Super Cup competition. The idea to move to England is undisputable for Lowe. The man behind the move, Stanley Genne, stood firm on his decision to bring players to England.
It's too short, you know, the rugby league players, we don't have much time to play rugby, and when they have that little time, they want to make as much as they can.
Genne, who left for England today, says the team of 7 players with first 4, including Jason Tully, Charlie Wabo, Mark Mexico and Gary Lowe, will depart on the 12th of November to join him. Meanwhile, Sports Minister Justin Kichenko is disappointed with the Genne's idea and says he's not following the right procedure.
You know, he's already up to the standard that NRL is looking for, so it's just a matter of time. And I think Stanley has not done the right thing by this young man.
Minister Kichenko described the idea as premature without considering other options. Gary Lowe also looking at further his accounting studies in England. Tere Alex, National, EMTV Sports.
And we'll bring you more sporting action in Trukai Sports after these short messages. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The annual Gold Coast Masters Tournament commenced at the weekend with a big and impressive turnout. This year alone, more than 1,000 individuals are registered to take part in the week-long tournament, and for the first time in 5 years, President of the Public Servants Netball Association, Davera Dotiguru, was impressed with the 11 teams from Papua New Guinea.
With the opening on Friday and day 1 of competition on Saturday, the Pan-Pacific Masters Games was a mere success for the majority of the teams from Papua New Guinea. Daveri Dotigura, president of the Public Servants Netball Association, confirmed there were 11 teams. 6 from the public sector, 4 teams sponsored by individual corporate bodies, and 1 from the village of Maupa in the Central Province. Former netballers Archie Alex and captain of the Hanamoa Pearls Rosie Martin were pleased with the influx of Papua New Guinean teams in this year's tournament, as it not only unites the community but strengthens ties with those living in Papua New Guinea and Australia.
This is the inaugural team for the Hanamoa Pearls, so we're hoping to actually make the club a lot bigger so that we can enter a lot more teams in future Masters competitions.
Teams such as number 1 Super, Hanamoa Pearls, sponsored by CE Hardware, and Finance were a few of the many Papua New Guinean teams to take part on the weekend. Games will continue all throughout the week with finals and the closing ceremony on Friday. Lorraine Genya, National EMTV Sports.
Well, that's been our True Kai Sports segment for tonight. Coming up next, the weather details for the next 24 hours. Stay with us.
True Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
Looking at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in southern region, cloudy periods with possible evening showers expected in Port Moresby. In Momase, mostly fine in all centres except Lae, cloudy weather. In the New Guinea Islands, a shower or two expected in Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And lastly, in the Highlands region, all centres fine apart from morning fog. Recapping our top stories again before we go. Director of the National Research Institute, Dr. Thomas Webster, urges the government to be responsible in budget undertakings. Also, the PNGDF submits budget proposal for 2015, and tragedy at the Melbourne Cup with favourite horse at Maiarakti dying after the race. Well, that's been National EMTV News tonight. On behalf of the news crew, I'm Tokana Hasavi. Thanks for your company. You take care and stay safe. Good night.